Well, good afternoon, everybody. Listen, it's half term. We are sat in our respective homes. Sarah, where are you in the world? Roughly. I mean, don't give away your address in case you get
I
inundated.
am in Enfield in North London, if
North
anyone
London.
is lucky enough to know.
And Adam, are you Surrey way, Kent way?
Yeah, I'm sort of in between the two. I'm in a little place called Whiteleaf, which is known only really for the fact that it's got a tapas bar, and also it's the headquarters of Anne Summers. Is in
Right.
Whiteleaf as well.
Apparently, for some of our primary teacher listeners, that's a shop that secondary school teachers go to. I didn't expect that for Adam. There you are. Never mind. Welcome everybody back to Coaching Unpacked. We're a little on the fly because we didn't expect this episode. Because this episode is all about engineering insight, and it wasn't meant to be. But Adam, in the course of his coaching, I'm talking about him like he's not here. But in the course of his coaching, well, you had a bit of a moment, a bit of a senior moment that has come to, that sparked something off in Sarah that was quite scary. And because you were able to quickly say in a moment, I'm going to engineer a moment of insight with one of your coachees at school, Olly. And well, as a group, we've just not been able to stop thinking about the power of it. That's not a that's not an is that an overflated way of saying that, Sarah? The power of it? No,
Yeah.
I don't think so. For our audio listeners, Sarah just shook her head fervently. So let's talk about what happened, because we're going to do something very different with this podcast, this episode. So the first thing to say is there is a video. The video will happen in the middle of this podcast. We'll do something magic in edit land afterwards. So if you are an audio customer, then you'll be able to hear what's being done. But we advise you to jump on Spotify, where you'll be able to see this as the visual podcast. It'll also be uploaded to YouTube as well, where I'm really pleased, guys. We get so much feedback from people saying that they're actually using this podcast as CPD within the school. Who wants to listen to us ramble on about Anne Summers at 8 a.m. at staff briefing? But it's about to happen. They didn't know. Maybe we'll put a trigger warning on that. So you can watch this episode on YouTube, and it'll also feature on this week's coaching Substack that Sarah and Adam put out, and the link to subscribe for that will be in the description. So all you have to do is Google Cognitive Coaching Substack. There's over 800 subscribers so far, guys. Congratulations. People are really, really interested in what the brain can do. Right, that's enough of me. Sarah, can you please tell us what happens in this infamous video?
Yeah, I'm calling it that video.
That video.
Because
Videogate.
I feel like we don't even need to we know what we mean by that video. Because it's so, I've shown it to so many people, anyone who listen. I just showed it to my husband, who is not in education, and he was like, okay, what am I looking at?
The person on the street selling the big issue. I've got a video. No, thank you. But here's a great video.
It's so good. It's such a good video. And when I saw it, I was just like, this is so powerful. So let me just summarize kind of what happens in this video, because you need a bit of priming. It's a bit like when you go in and watch a teacher who is excellent at behavior management. And if you go in and watch them, you're kind of like, can't really see anything. What am I supposed to be looking at? Because it's just all going so fluidly. So Adam's kind of achieved this with his coaching. And if I show this, if you watch this cold, it's almost like, well, yeah, what am I watching? But if you know what you're supposed to be looking for, you're like, this is amazing. So here's what happens in the video. Adam is coaching Olly, who is a really experienced, quite expert teacher in his school. And Adam gets him to watch some video from StepLab Lens, and it's like some footage of Olly's lesson. And Olly's asking his group a question, his class a question in this video. And basically, Adam asks Olly, what was your goal when you used that particular question in your lesson?
Yeah.
And Olly says, essentially, my goal was to check for understanding. So Adam writes up on the board, your goal was to check for understanding. Then Adam asks Olly, what was the question that you asked? And Olly says that he essentially asks, what is it that you know about the story so far? So Adam sort of draws a line from the goal, and then in a box, he sort of puts the question that Olly asks. So up in front of them is this visual of the goal and the question. And then Adam sort of sits with that for a second and then says, how does this action serve this goal? And then Olly looks at it, and there's just this moment where he goes, well, it doesn't. And it's like, I know that sounds really simple, but essentially what Adam has done in that moment is engineer insight. He has got Olly to see his lesson in a different way. And in the space of about 2 minutes, his video clip is 2 minutes long, Olly's gone, that's the problem. And that's what we mean by insight, a kind of aha moment where you're sort of triggered to think, I've learned something, I've got something now. So we're gonna watch the video now.
Yeah,
we're gonna
and
put the video
before
in.
we do that, shall we thank Olly in advance for allowing us into this space, because it's a really nerve-wracking space. We're going to unpack it, but and thank you, Adam, for allowing us to see this moment, because it's really, really cool. So without further ado, roll footage.
And this time, just have in your head, what was your goal with this bed talk?
And sit up straight, because we're looking very tired. Maybe you said partner A and B, go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. Hands up, partner A. Partner A, you are going to tell the person next to you what it is that you know about the story so far. Go. 30 seconds.
Pause that then.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your goal with this particular question?
The same as what it was on the carpet.
Which was?
Which was to first of all to gauge the understanding of their text, of what they've read so far, and their understanding of the characters' emotions and thoughts and feelings.
Okay, so you're checking understanding.
Yeah.
That's your goal. Okay, roll it on. Pause it again. Alright, so in service of that goal, what was the thing that you did? What was the question that you asked?
What do you know about the story so far?
Cool. So you asked, what do you know? I'm just to fit this in, what do you know so far?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, what was the driver behind that question? Like, why does that question serve that goal?
Well, it doesn't, does it?
That's classic.
Yes. That's enough of that. I just thought we'd have a nice bit of round of applause there for you, Adam. Congratulations. Wow. What a moment. I remember watching that and just laughing. I had no idea that moment was going to come. And when he went, oh, it doesn't. Because he's got that accent. Oh, it doesn't. It's just so real. And just the aha moment was just so, it was just so there. So for me, this is really interesting, right? Because as this tiny bit of coaching, I think for people like me and other coaches, it's the bit we kind of worry about. It's the bit of the conversation where we want to focus on something to improve, but we need the teacher to really get what we're saying and to share their interpretation. So I guess it's easy to either maybe not get to the point and play guess what's in my head, which, I mean, as teachers, we say that with training teachers, don't guess. Don't let the kids guess. What a terrible waste of time. Tell them the answer to the question they don't yet know. So we could go for that, or B, we could say it in a way that feels like criticism and then put the teacher off. But so you always worry whether you're going to flip between those two. But I think what you did there, Adam, was it made both parties feel involved. because you got the teacher saying what their goal was and what they did. And when you linked it together and went to how did they link together, and he just went, oh no, I've done a bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I think it's really good to get your perspective on it, Chris, as well. Like from someone who might worry about those things. Like I still worry about like how to get these things kind of across and to like agree them. So I kind of get lots of coaches. I'm actually doing some coaching tomorrow with 2 coaches who are like, how do we get over that probe bit? How do we get people to see what it is that we're seeing in a way that helps them to feel agentic and not kind of like maybe just told about it? And there's nothing wrong with just telling people what you saw and what you think the problem is. There's nothing really wrong with that, but you do have to have a particular relationship. And actually it might be more powerful to do what Adam's done, which is like engineer insight. And I think the power of this might lie in this idea of like prediction error as well. So you're kind of like, if you watch that video and you can kind of watch it back, but it's like Olly has this moment where he's kind of like shaken out of his slumber a little bit. Not that he's in a slumber, but when we get into habits, we get a bit automatic. So like seeing it in front of you, like this was your goal, you did this, how do they match? They don't, kind of wakes the teacher out of that habit and like, and that's exactly what that space of coaching is there to do. It's there to give teachers the space to really get to the nub of what the problem is and start to kind of think about what they could do better. So it really helped, like Adam's really helping kind of see it there, like in front of him. But like before we talk about kind of a bit more about like the power of it, let's just kind of dig into how Adam managed to kind of engineer this, because we've used the term engineer insight to suggest that it was a deliberate thing that Adam's done. And I think it's way more than just that moment that we've captured in the video. So I want Adam to kind of explain to us how he kind of got to that point.
Yeah, so like this has been lovely so far, by the way. It's like a big let's be nice about Adam session.
Don't get used to it.
Yeah. So thank you very much. No, I think, the analogy that gets used a lot is like the iceberg one, right? So you've got the tip of the iceberg and all of the stuff that's going on underneath, or sometimes people talk about a swan, don't they? Where like, you've got this nice, calm, serene bit on the surface, but there's like tons of work going on underneath that you don't necessarily see. And I think that's similar to this really, is like, it is pretty simple stuff when you look at it like that, but there's a fair amount of preparation that's gone into that. So I guess like the first thing to be aware of, I suppose, is that it's like, so when Sarah and I coach, we try to codify the preparation as much as we can. I guess that's something we've kind of looked at over the last few months. That's partly for a course that we've been running. And that's kind of helped me get to this point of like being able to explain, hopefully clearly, what my kind of preparation is. So the first thing is like, when I'm in the lesson and watching, like I get tripped up. So that's basically like everything's going nice and swimmingly, and I'm just kind of cruising through watching what's going on. And then suddenly something trips me up in the environment. So with this one, it was that I saw a situation that jarred with my knowledge of how learning and great teaching happens, which was like, so Olly asked this question, but the question that he asked didn't feel like it matched the purpose that I thought logically should have been there at that point in the lesson. So I know Olly really well, and I know his curriculum really well, and so I kind of sense that at this point in the learning sequence, he should really be checking for understanding. The question that he asked didn't, to my mind, check understanding particularly well. So it kind of tripped me up, made me think, okay, there's something here that's worth really looking at. So that was the first thing that I noticed. And at that point, he either thinks that there's one of two things that's going on. He's either got a different goal to checking for understanding, which would trip me up, because I'm pretty sure that at this point, I've got a strong sense that checking for understanding would be the most appropriate thing for him to be doing. I might be wrong, but that's my sense. Or, so it's either he's got a different goal, or he thinks that he is checking for understanding, which again would trip me up, because the question that was asked, I don't see how that plausibly could have checked understanding, certainly not reliably. So the second thing that I do is I record what I see as events and actions. So because we've got the recording on StepLab Lens and I map out what I'm seeing, that makes that, not nice and straightforward. But mapping ultimately organizes my thinking. So it helps me capture the events that the teacher helps me capture the events or the teacher actions and the cause and effect. So I'm mapping what I've seen. So I've seen him ask this question, and then I map out the effect of that, which in this case was children answering questions on whiteboards. So then I infer intentions. So the third bit of this is inferring intentions. So I infer from what's happened so far what the teacher's goal is. So again, remember, that's like not just what the teacher's doing, but also the context of where that learning sequence is at the moment. So I'm inferring that the goal is checking for understanding. And I infer the reasons behind those actions. So they're decision drivers. So why do I think he asked the question in the way that he did instead of in a different way? And I do that because I'm trying to work out what the problem is, and what they did and what they thought. And then lastly, to myself at this stage, I propose what I think the problem is. So in this case, the problem appeared to be mismatch. So the actions don't match what I think is the optimal goal. And it's really important here that, like, all of this is not me saying the correct goal was checking for understanding.
Yeah.
This is me saying at this point, it feels to me that I think the most optimal goal would have been check for understanding. Now, if we get into that coaching conversation and Olly says, oh no, my goal was this and this is why, and that makes complete plausible sense. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. Well, let's go with that then. So I would then drop the direction that I was going to take things in. It's not what happened in this session, as we know. So Olly he's asked a question habitually, is what I think has happened. So he's asked a question that is a good question to ask, and I can interrupt his thinking during coaching and help him think and act better. But at this stage, like I say, it's just something that I've got a hunch about. So this is something that Sarah and I have kind of happened on over the last few months. If we think about what those 4 stages are, so I got tripped up, G. I then recorded what I saw, R. I then inferred intentions, I, and then I proposed the problem, P, which makes a lovely little acronym of GRIP. So all together, which you can now see on the screen. How cool is that?
That's so cool.
That's brilliant. It looks like you're wearing because it's the same color as your jumper, so it looks like you're wearing a ball. So that was basically that was my preparation. So that's basically how I prepared for this conversation. I then went away after the actual lesson itself, and I kind of padded out the mapping that I'd done. So I had some evidence to propose to Olly if I needed it, if I thought it was going to be helpful. But ultimately, my preparation is done around those 4 areas. What's tripped me up? What is it that I've recorded? What are the intentions that I'm inferring? And then what's the problem overall that I can propose? Oh, Chris, you're on mute.
Why am I on mute on a podcast? What's going on? It's because I was trying to do something fancy live. So you got a grip of the situation. That's
yes.
This is what we're sort of going for.
How you've got me and the audience are with you. Can I ask a couple of questions, Adam?
Yeah.
Okay, so as I said earlier, one of the most kind of the aha moment that happens for Olly is an aha moment for us as an audience. Once we've got the context that Sarah had given us of who Olly was and what he was teaching and why we were there, otherwise it's just a bit kind of, you've walked in somebody's classroom and it's a bit weird because it's the private space, right? So is there another way that Olly could have, he had that moment, this real moment of insight that we're calling it, that you've engineered. Could this have happened without you mapping it out, without mapping his goal and actions in front of him? Was that a necessary thing you had to do, or could you just have a big old chat about it?
Yeah, I suppose, like for clarity, then basically in the video for anybody that isn't able to watch it, or if you just need a refresh. So all that happened in the video was that I asked Olly, I've referred him to this particular point in the lesson. I said, what was your goal? He said, my goal was checking for understanding. So I put that up on the board. So at that point, we were just thinking about his goal. Then drew it up on the board. So we now don't have to try and hold his goal in our heads. We've got it written up on the board. Then I said, okay, what was the first thing that you did in this particular segment of the lesson. He said, well, I asked this question, which, to be fair, he'd already seen because we played the video of it, right? So, okay, I asked this question. Great, what was the question you asked? I asked whatever the question was. We've put that up. So he's able to think hard about that because he's not having to hold his goal in his head. Once we've then put up the question that he's asked, we're then able to go, okay, so now we've got the goal and we've got the action. Now, in what way does this action serve this goal? At this point, his working memory can be entirely devoted on looking at the alignment between goal and action, rather than trying to hold what his goal was and what his action was in his head at the same time. I think that means that he can think harder about the alignment. And I think that's probably the thing that means that he can very, very quickly and easily go, oh, they don't align. Alignment is the thing I'm able to really focus on because the actions and the goal are on the board already. The alignment doesn't match. Therefore, there's a problem there.
I really like what you've done there, trying to align a teacher's thinking, because coaches are teachers, especially in the UK. So we have quite a few US listeners where over there, some coaches are just they're employed by the school. Or all they do is coach. What an amazing thing! But yeah, so they are teachers, and to expect, this is something I bang a drum about all the time, to expect teachers to teach our young people in one way, but then not our adults in the same way, whether it's with regard to relieving some of that cognitive load in that moment. How many teaching things have you been to where it's a slideshow full of 50 million words and it's 2 hours long and it's on cognitive load? You're sat there going, yeah, they don't get this. They don't get the irony of this. Okay, so, cool. So, right, I've got that. So mapping it out not only solidified it for you and for him, it gave him space in his working memory to really think deeply about the alignment that he needed to get.
Do you know the other thing that I would throw in there as well, which is incredibly important, that I think you get when you map it like this, is I think you get the difference between belief and buy-in. So if I hadn't mapped it and we talked about it, and I said to Olly, okay, so Olly, this is what I saw happen. I thought this was your goal. Would you agree with that? Excuse me. He goes, yeah, that was my goal. My goal was to check for understanding. Okay, I saw you ask this question. Do you remember that? And he'll go, yeah, because he either can remember it or he can't, and he assumes I'm right. And then I'm going to say to him, okay, so do these match? Do these two things align? He'll either say, no, they don't, in which case, great, we're there. Or he'll say, yeah, I guess they probably do. At which point I would then just tell him, or I would say, well, actually, I don't think they do align, right? So, and if I do that, he's probably going to accept it, because in the relationship that we have as well, I'm his deputy head. So I'd like to think that doesn't mean he, can't question anything that I say. He definitely actually does question stuff I say, which is great. But I think it's quite difficult when you're the teacher sat with the coach and okay, the coach has got this wider lens of awareness because they're not having to actually teach the lesson. So what they're seeing is probably accurate. I think what that gives you is the teacher buying into what the coach is saying. So the coach says, I think we should work on this because this is a problem that we saw. Teacher's like, yeah, okay, that seems logical. I'll buy into that. I think what happens here when you map it out like that, and teachers have that moment of insight where they see it and they're like, oh, it's completely irrefutable. Not in a problematic way, of course, right? Because it's not a problem that there's this mismatch. Actually, it's this brilliant thing that we've managed to spot together. But I think when they see it in front of them like that, that's where you get belief. So they believe that that's the part of the teaching that they should work on. And that is really motivational. And I don't think it's in the clip, but if you watch the video on, what you see is Olly grab the pen for himself and he starts like mapping out his own solution mental model. So that moment of insight wasn't like a deflating, I got it wrong. It was I see where we can improve it. And then he goes after that sort of improvement bit with tons of motivation himself. And that, I think, comes from that belief. So I think, belief rather than buy-in is another happy byproduct of mapping.
If only a bee fit nicely into our little wait into grip. I'm not sure it does. Gripper. But let's go back to that actually, Adam, because I think my last question, because remember, people are driving, we want to keep this nice and digestible for them. You explained the steps within Grip in order to prepare for your coaching. So we've done Olly. Olly was brilliant. He found his way, and actually, in no small part, thanks to his relationship with you. And I'm sure soon we'll do something on relationships, because it's just anybody I meet who is cautious of coaching, relationships are the things they're suspicious about the most. I think that's really, really key when you're trying to convince somebody that it works. So Grip sounds simple. Here it comes again. But is it really? You know, it's something we've come up with in order to help people. We've codified it in a way that is memorable. But is it easy? Can you just learn to do it?
I think you can definitely learn to start giving it a go, like pretty easily, for sure. Because, you know, I think that's where the four letters essentially help you with that, because they give you a framework to think about it. But I think to do each of those 4 stages well, and to do them in a way that really helps you prepare for coaching in a deep way, I think that takes more time to learn. And I think what it also takes is a lot of reflection on the part of the coach. So reflecting after your coaching session, a little bit in the coaching session as well, but certainly after the coaching session, and thinking, okay, well, which part didn't feel quite right, let's go back to that preparation stage. Which part of the preparation might have caused it to feel not quite right? And then is that the G, the R, the I, or the P? And then that's where I want to work next time. And then the next time it's a case of going, that's the one little spot that I'm going to work at, just that thing. But yeah, absolutely, you can learn to do it. But I think it takes time to do it increasingly well, just like with everything, to be quite honest. I think the one other last thing I'll say, and then I promise I'll stop, is like culture is a big thing here. So like, yes, you can learn how to do Grip and to use that to prepare for coaching, but the culture has to allow you to do that. So I would like to think that in my school, a teacher getting it right in the lesson is not their aim. The coach getting it right and proving that they're able to see something that the teacher couldn't see, that's not the aim either. The aim of coaching in my school is about coach and teacher genuinely working together to identify and solve a problem collaboratively. So if that's the aim, and the aim stops being about being right, then getting it wrong, either as the coach or the teacher, is now no longer a problem.
Yeah.
I love that.
Culture is really, really important. If you've got that, then you can start to put Grip in, and you know that you've got the psychological safety to talk together about what it was that tripped you up. If tripping you up means you got this wrong, then it's not going to go much further than the G of Grip.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's such a good point about like being right. And it reminds me of something that Olly Cakebread said to me the other day, which is like, someone said to him, you can sit at one table at once, but you can never sit at both tables at the same time. You can sit at the be right table or the get results table. And it's like, you're sitting at the get results table. It's not about being right. It's about getting results and that progress for teachers. So given that Grip is a way that we can prepare for coaching, but it's not, we kind of likened it earlier, didn't we, Adam, to like teaching kids to concept map or to use like Cornell notes method. Like, it's not something that you get straight off the bat, but it's worth it for organising your thinking. And we've seen from that video, it's worth it for engineering insight. So Adam is generously putting on a free webinar where he's going to take us through the 4 steps of Grip on the 27th of March. So that's next month, 27th of March, 4 till 5:15. So it's really 4 till 5 with 15 minutes of questions. And we'll put in a link to the Eventbrite event. Tickets are free. Just want to share this stuff. Just want to get people playing around with this stuff and seeing how it would help. So if you are a coach and you want to prepare for coaching in this way, try preparing for coaching in this way. It's quite an organised way, and you were quite sort of interested in the way that Adam used it during coaching. Or if you are a leader of coaching in your school and you are thinking, you know, how do I get coaches to spot something really useful to coach on? How do I get people on the same page and get people sort of singing from the same hymn sheet, the similar mental model of how great teaching and learning happens? Then this event is for you. So yeah, we'll put the link there. That's Thursday, the 27th of March, 4 till 5:15. Tickets are free. We've got 100 spots. We'd love 100 people there watching.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to say for our future listeners, if you're listening to this and the 27th of March has passed, please don't worry, because when we set up Coaching Unpacked, we knew that these are the kind of things we wanted to do and push forward. So if by the time you're listening to this, it's passed and we haven't announced another one, it will happen, because we just want to get this stuff out there so that people can have a bit of a listen. So you can sign up to the free webinar and we can learn together how to engineer this insight through mapping for yourself. But I think it's really important, like Sarah said, leaders of coaching, leaders, teachers, coaches. I think nobody in education is going to be poorer for attending this, is my opinion. They're going to at least,
even if you're skeptical about the approach as well, like definitely
more so,
come along.
Yes.
Because it may well be that you've got like the next little bit of insight where you go, well, what about this? If you thought about this bit, and we're like, no, but that now makes it 100% better. Like, come along if even like I say, even if you're skeptical, it's come along and join the conversation.
Everybody's more than welcome. Sarah, did you want to wrap up with anything as we hit the listen? We're doing a 30-minute one. That's very impressive.
Yes,
for us.
That's what we want.
Digestible.
Right, three things from me. Really quick things. One is just want to echo what you said earlier, Chris, about big thank you to Olly, who's obviously not on this call, but is so generous with sharing both his coaching and his coaching when he's coached, if that makes sense. He's just awesome. I met him in person the other day and I was like, you're famous in my books. I've watched so many videos of you. So yeah, huge thank you to him. Second thing I wanted to say was please check out our Coaching Cuts Substack and sign up to that. We've got, when we say over 800 people, we literally have 801 people signed up. So it's not lots more than 800.
It's because I just signed up, actually. I just pressed
Did you? But we will show this video clip with a bit more of a deconstruction of it in obviously a less transient way on there. So have a look at that. We put out one every single week of coaching tips, getting loads of great feedback, but equally, as Adam says, challenge as well is very much welcome. And the third thing I was going to say has completely gone out of my head. But just love working with you guys and pushing coaching forward in this way. So yeah, big thank you.
a little. And if it comes back, just tweet about it. Or on Blue Sky and just be like, you won't get this yet, but I forgot to say something on a podcast, and here it is. And then people who will listen, they'll jump on those channels and they'll find it. Adam and Sarah, thank you so much for joining me and you for. Listen, I get so much out just sitting and listening to you two talk about coaching. It's bloody brilliant. So thank you very much, and thank you to all of our listeners. Good luck back in schools next week. 7-week push to, is it Easter? Is that the next big one? We can do it, guys. We've got it. We'll see you all soon. Bye.